Welcome to episode 1 of Sins and Wins, where we will look at the 5 highest and 5 lowest rated episodes of a TV show and determine if they are a sin against the series or a win for it. For this first episode, we are going to be covering the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, which aired from December 1987 to November 1996 for a total of 193 episodes. For the series, there are 3 guidelines I am going to adhere to when it comes to these rankings. Number 1, the scores come from IMDb, ties are broken by the unweighted score, and those ties are broken by the percentage of 10-star ratings. Number 2, I'm not including any episodes that are basically a clip show of previous episodes from the series because they're pretty boring to talk about and tend to be the lowest rated episodes. And number 3, multi-part episodes are combined into one and the scores are averaged across all parts of the episode. That doesn't come into play for TMNT 87, but it will for other shows. With that, let's get into the first sin. Sin number 5 is season 4, episode 3, Michelangelo Toys Around, from September 12, 1990, with a 6.6 out of 10. Michelangelo hears about an exclusive toy fair on the news and tries to pass as a toy salesman to get in. When this doesn't work, he instead pretends to be a giant turtle toy, leading him to accidentally being sold to some rich kid named Kevin. Meanwhile, a greedy toy maker named Wilbur Weasel reprograms his rival's Tyrannotoys to be evil in an attempt to put him out of business. Despite being mistaken for a toy by Kevin earlier, Michelangelo is now recognized as one of the Ninja Turtles, and they defeat the Tyrannotoys with other toys, sabotaging Weasel's plans and saving the day. I was initially surprised by this being one of the lowest rated episodes from the series because I remembered really enjoying Michelangelo in this episode because of some pretty iconic lines from him.
It's not open to the public.
No problemo, dude. I am not a public. I am a turtle.
My turtle comm is gone. Oh well, the guys will find me sooner or later.
However, something that I quickly realized is the episodes that focus on an individual turtle tend to be rated lower than some of the other episodes. This will be very apparent as we get into some of the other sins as well. I personally love seeing the individual turtles highlighted, but I understand why they're rated lower. As for Michelangelo Toys Around, it's not a good episode. It's one of the random one-off villain episodes which can be fun, but the antagonists of this episode aren't particularly engaging. And the whole use toys to defeat toys thing was like, alright, I guess. However, the biggest reason this episode was painful to rewatch was the audio. I don't know who was in charge of mixing this specific episode, but the music is so loud to the point where it's extremely difficult to make out the dialogue at several points throughout.
We can cut our way out of this. Leonardo, if you cut the net, we'll fall. Oh, chill, will ya? Oh, chill, Mr. Robot.
Even if this was the best written episode in the entire show, this awful audio mixing is painful. For this reason, Michelangelo Toys Around deserves to be labeled as a sin. There are so many better episodes from this series. Win number 5 is season 3, episode 18, Cowabunga Shredhead, from October 18th, 1989, with a 7.9 out of 10. Even if you've never watched the show, you've probably heard this iconic audio before.
I brought back some takeout, so let's get down and pig out.
It's Shredder.
Where?
Cowabunga Shredhead opens with the turtles getting fed up with Michelangelo for eating all the pizzas, a pattern behavior that leads Splinter to hypnotize him to crave pizza no more. Meanwhile, Shredder is working on a plan to infiltrate the turtles' lair with a hologram of Michelangelo. However, because Bebop doesn't know how to use a floppy disk properly, Shredder's machine goes haywire and accidentally zaps him with Michelangelo's personality. Fully believing himself to now be Michelangelo, Shredder goes to the turtles' lair with some fresh pizzas. Splinter hypnotizes Shredder such that when he hears his own name, he becomes his old self again, but turns back into Michelangelo again if he hears Mikey's name. This leads to some really fun shenanigans of the turtles messing with Shredder and using him to ruin his evil plans. This episode is the perfect example of what this show does so well that we don't really see in the other animated TMNT series, and that is just playing with wacky scenarios and having fun with it. Not only is it hilarious to see Shredder act as Michelangelo, but it actually leads to some really clever solutions from the turtles. Cowabunga Shredhead is definitely a win for TMNT 87 and is one of the best episodes from the series. Sin number 4 is season 5, episode 16, Raphael, Turtle of a Thousand Faces, from October 26th, 1991, with a 6.6 out of 10. The episode opens with Raphael trying to trick his brothers with a pirate disguise, but they immediately clock him as Raphael. He then makes a bet with them that they wouldn't be able to pick him out at the park, and they readily agree. For some reason, Raphael decides to look at a wall of wanted posters to choose his disguise and decides on Mad Dog McMutt. Well, lo and behold, McMutt also happens to be in the park and gets knocked out by a big dog, so when his goons show up, they end up taking Raphael away with them instead. Meanwhile, the turtles think the actual McMutt is Raphael in disguise. You get the picture. After some identity shenanigans, April, Irma, and Raphael work together to put a stop to McMutt's plans to steal the Museum of Natural History. TMNT 87 has a few episodes with identity shenanigans at play, but the way it's done in this episode isn't particularly compelling. Mad Dog McMutt is also a really weird antagonist. I'm pretty sure this man fully believes he is a dog. The main plot of this episode isn't really engaging, but it does have some fun character moments. There's a really sweet scene at the start of the episode where Splinter gives off massive dad energy.
I'm taking a correspondence course from Pinkerman's Private Peepers to be an undercover detective.
A detective? Why, my student?
So I can make more of a contribution to the Mean Green team. You know, something special.
But each of you is already special.
On top of this, April and Irma were a big part of saving the day, and watching them work with Raphael was a really fun dynamic. They also have this really cute scene in the park, and as a massive Irma-April shipper, seeing them being featured this heavily made me very happy. Although Raphael, Turtle of a Thousand Faces, definitely isn't the best episode, I don't think it quite qualifies as a sin, so I give it a pass. Win number 4 is Season 1, Episode 2, Enter the Shredder from December 15th, 1987, with a 7.9 out of 10. As the second episode of the series, it follows the Turtles as they hunt for the Technodrome in order to confront those responsible for terrorizing the city. Several key events happen in this episode, including the debut of Krang, the mutation of Bebop and Rocksteady, and Splinter's kidnapping, resulting in the Turtles meeting the Shredder for the first time. It's a generally solid episode and introduces a lot of key character dynamics that quickly become fundamental to the show. For this reason, Enter the Shredder definitely qualifies as a win for the 1987 animated series. Sin number 3 is Season 4, Episode 36, Beyond the Donatello Nebula, from December 1st, 1990, with a 6.6 out of 10. This episode introduces an alien chameleon character named Algernon, who Donatello accidentally summons to Earth when trying to get in contact with the turtle Nebula, whose magic school bus looking spaceship is stolen by this guy trying to take over Channel 6. For some reason, taking apart the spaceship would lead to the entire Earth exploding, so Algie and Donatello have to stop them, and of course save April, who was kidnapped for literally no reason. I was absolutely shocked by this being such a low-rated episode because I covered it in one of my random episode reviews, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. I love this episode. My biggest guess as to why it's one of the lowest rated episodes is because it's a solo turtle adventure and it has a couple of glaring animation errors.
Try a little of your space magic on it.
My mean green heroes! What a relief. I thought I was gonna have to cover this whole story sitting down.
However, it's a really fun episode. I find Algernon to be delightful, and the way that he interacts with Donatello is really fun as well.
Hey, you better camouflage yourself. You know, a 4-foot-tall lizard and all that.
Oh, I see. But a 4-foot-tall turtle is fine.
So, despite Beyond the Donatello Nebula being one of the lowest rated episodes, I actually give it a win. I really enjoy this episode, and it does not deserve to be this low on the list. Win number 3 is Season 7, Episode 19, Night of the Rogues, from October 23rd, 1993, with an 8.1 out of 10. Shredder gets fed up with Bebop and Rocksteady, failing him for the umpteenth time, and puts them in timeout so he can recruit some new allies, while Krang works on his own plan to find some intergalactic treasure. Now working for Shredder, the Rat King / Leatherhead, Tempestra, Chrome Dome, and Scumbug and Anthrax head to the sewers to take down the Turtles. Funnily enough, this is the only episode that Scumbug and Anthrax appear in, but they're treated as someone that they've faced before like all of the other rogues. The Turtles are unable to defeat all of these foes alone and are trapped with a disintegrator device, so it's up to Splinter and the Turtles' human allies to save them. This is a really fun episode for several reasons. It features a lot of characters from throughout the series so far, from the Technodrome gang to the Rogues to allies like April, Irma, Casey Jones, and Zack. Raphael is hilarious with all of his disdain for humans and the way that he turns around at the end of the episode, especially when it results in Vernon being roasted.
Human beings are aces in my book.
Oh, there you are. How could you leave me like that, being dragged around by that awful crocodile?
Of course, there are some humans I could do without.
Relax, dude. Any resemblance between Vernon and a real human being is strictly coincidental.
I also really enjoyed how Bebop and Rocksteady were portrayed in this episode. Even though they were basically fired, they were so concerned about Shredder that they broke out just in time to save him and Krang from being jumped after their plan failed. I always enjoy when they highlight that sort of family dynamic the Technodrome gang has, and Bebop and Rocksteady's loyalty here is super sweet. Seeing the rogues interact with one another is really enjoyable as well.
It's we rats who will rule.
You aren't even a rat. You're a human.
How dare you insult me like that?
Night of the Rogues is such a blast, it absolutely deserves to be labeled as a win for the 1987 series. Sin number 2 is Season 4, Episode 39, Unidentified Flying Leonardo, from December 8th, 1990, with a 6.5 out of 10. After hearing that April is investigating supposed UFO sightings in a small town, Leonardo decides to accompany her to make sure she's okay. While in the countryside, Leonardo is mistaken for a Martian and starts being hunted by a mob of townsfolk. Meanwhile, April is abducted by the UFO before learning that it's a cover-up by a man named Dr. Davins, who has been using a Vita Ray to make plants enormous in order to take over the industry and put other farmers out of business. The other turtles arrive and help stop Davins' plans. As far as episodes that focus on the individual turtles go, I found this one to be pretty enjoyable. Leonardo has a lot of fun little moments that highlight why I love him so much in this show. He's adorable.
April here.
Hi, it's Leonardo. Care to join us for some pizzas and educational TV? Never sneak up on a Ninja Turtle. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, sir. Sometimes I just don't know my own strength.
Not only does this episode focus on Leonardo, but it's an April and Leo adventure, and I always love when we get to see the turtles' individual relationships with April highlighted. The plot of the episode itself is okay. The manhunt for Leonardo is kind of fun, but the rest of the episode is just alright. I disagree that it's a sin against the show, but I wouldn't necessarily give it a win either, so Unidentified Flying Leonardo gets a pass. It's a pretty solid solo adventure for Leonardo, but it isn't a standout episode by any means. Win number 2 is Season 1, Episode 1, Turtle Tracks, from December 14th, 1987, with an 8.1 out of 10. The 1987 series opens with April O'Neil reporting on robberies of scientific equipment, an investigation in which she discovers the criminals are ninjas. She's chased into the sewers by a street gang and is rescued by the turtles, passing out in fear. Once she wakes up, Master Splinter explains his and the turtles' story. April agrees to let the turtles help her find the culprits behind the crimes and watches as they defeat the attacking Footbots. Turtle Tracks is a solid first episode to kick off this legendary series. We immediately get a sense of April and the turtles' dynamic with one another, and the story of this world with the Hamato Yoshi and Orokusaki backstory. There are so many other episodes from the series that I personally find more enjoyable, but I can't deny that it's a very memorable episode and a win for the 1987 series. The worst episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1987, according to IMDb, is Season 4, Episode 28, Poor Little Rich Turtle, from November 3rd, 1990, with a 6.5 out of 10. This episode follows the turtles trying to protect 15-year-old CEO of Shellhammer Chemicals, Buffy Shellhammer, from being kidnapped by the Technodrome gang, who are trying to learn the Shellhammer Chemicals formula for fuel in order to free the Technodrome. As soon as I started rewatching this episode for this video, I immediately knew why it's the lowest rated. Buffy's voice is so grating, which I understand is the point, but it's very painful to listen to. However, I think the worst part of this episode is actually Michelangelo. I'm a lot more forgiving of love interests than a lot of other people when it comes to TMNT, but Mikey's crush on Buffy here really gets on my nerves. This is mainly because although the turtles were about 15 at the start of the series, they would likely be around 18 or 19 at this point in time. And with Raphael having a college-age love interest earlier in this season, either Mona Lisa is cancelled or Michelangelo is cancelled, and my girl Mona Lisa can do no wrong. But weird age gap aside, Mikey literally drags his brothers with him to go to her house.
I just want to see where she lives. Buffy Shellhammer is totally my main flame.
Hey, maybe don't stalk a child, Mikey. That's how you end up on a list. The main plot of the turtles basically needing to babysit Buffy for the majority of the episode also isn't particularly fun to watch. All of that said, I actually somewhat enjoy Buffy's character arc throughout this episode. She's finally getting to enjoy certain things she hasn't experienced before and just to be a kid. The way she messes with Shredder is incredibly iconic as well.
Sensitive to emotions, huh? Then you know what I think? I think you're a complete and utter total jerk, man! Yeah, you and all your sleazoid goons! You have like no sense of hospitality whatsoever! You haven't even offered me so much as a cheeseburger since I got here! You're ugly! You're stupid!
Get it off her!
However, this doesn't make up for the rest of the flaws present in this episode. I don't agree that Poor Little Rich Turtle is the worst episode in this series by any means, but it does deserve to be labeled as a sin. And finally, the best episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 1987, according to IMDb, is Season 1, Episode 5, Shredder and Splintered, from December 18th, 1987, with an 8.1 out of 10. Unsurprisingly, 3 of the 5 highest rated episodes are from the original season of the series. As the foundation fan of this iconic show, it makes sense that they are some of the most beloved episodes. Shredder and Splintered in particular is the exciting conclusion to the story that's been set up for us. It introduces us to the iconic android body that Krang pilots, as well as the turtle blimp. The final fight with Krang's giant body is really fun to watch and highlights some of the individual relationships between the turtles when they separate into their two different teams. Shredder and Splintered is a great conclusion to the 5-episode miniseries that is season 1, and definitely deserves to be considered a win for the 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. Let me know what your thoughts are on these episodes. Do you agree with this ranking or not? I'm planning to make Sins and Wins a series on this channel that not only covers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but the dozens of other animated shows I've seen, so let me know which show you would like me to cover next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.